Good evening, Mayor, Councilman, Chief. Tonight I'm here on behalf of the September 14th, August 11th, 2009 resolution for the two captain position for Chief of Police. And what my decision is to occur with Chief Goose is to rescind this order, this position, the two captains, and make it a one-person position. What I do is create a deputy chief of police position, which is basically the same as a chief of police, except a different aspect of it. The chief of police is governed by civil service rules and regulation. The deputy chief position is a little bit different. This year, the House of Representatives passed a new bill, Bill 1363, allowing the municipality chief police to make their decision as far as appointing their own assistant chief, which is called deputy chief of police. There are criteria. They have to be at least a sergeant. They have to be within the department, first of all. They have to hold at least a sergeant's position and have at least 6 years experience in law enforcement. That's the criteria. What happened is, once he's appointed as the deputy chief of police, his position is locked in with civil service. He is also appointed for a 3-year term, where the chief has the right at 3 years interval to do evaluation and reappoint him again. Or he can also remove him at his convenience and appoint someone else. It gives the chief an opportunity to have someone there that he can work with side by side, someone he can have confidence in and trust. Civil service, it takes away this from the chief. So by allowing him to have that control, or that person he can have next to him and knows the ins and outs of the police department, it gives him more freedom to do his job. The deputy chief of police has the same function as everything else. The only thing is, if he's removed by the chief of police, he goes back to his previous position. If he's a sergeant, lieutenant, he does not lose his pay, he does not lose his position, his job. That's the only difference. That would be my intent when I take office January. I confer with the chief, and he pretty much agrees with the same idea. It would be beneficial for the department. The two captains is not cost effective, and it's not effective for the chief of police to have two people trying to do the same job title.
Is that going to conflict with the civil service?
Mayor, no, I think, and Chief-elect Diaz was nice enough to call me to give me a heads up on this, so I got to talk to the civil service people today. The understanding of the law, and of course the law was just enacted, became effective September 1st of 2010, so you're talking about, like any law, it has not been tested in court, but the idea was to create a position called Deputy Police Chief. It had to be created as a competitive position, not a promotional position, and what that means is that as we all know under civil service law, if the position is created by the board and then the testing takes place, the law determines who of the people who, based on seniority generally, based on who fills that position. If the council creates a position as a competitive position, then as long as the person meets the, I thought it was 8 years of experience, but whatever it is, meets the sergeant's rank, meets all those things, that person can be picked even though he or she might have less seniority than someone else who's passed over. So it would be a little variance in what the civil service law says. It was created by the legislature this summer as a compromise between, I think, what the elected representatives want and what the chief of police or something, one of the associations wanted. It may have been the Civil Service Association. So it is a little different animal, and nobody's had much experience with it. I think what she told me today, Cynthia Johnson, there are 3 or 4 cities they're working with that have created the position or attempting to create the position.
Will we have to do that by ordinance, Mr. Chief?
We did the abolishment of the assistant chief by resolution, I think. Well, let me go back. So I wanted to brief you on the new deputy chief. Right now, as our ordinance and resolutions and our civil service pay plan exist, there's no assistant chief position or no deputy chief position, and there's no budgeted item for it. So the council would have to budget for that. Right now there is a provisional appointment of captains, but there's been no permanent creation of a captain's position.
Is that in the budget?
That was budgeted for, yes.
So the 2 captains are budgeted?
That's right. So what, and what's happening is there's an analysis of the captain's position that has not been completed. That would then go before the board to be approved. then the captains would be put in place after the test was taken and the civil service law applied. So really, if the council is want to do one of two things: number one, take action tonight on what Chief-elect Diaz wants to do, take action, or maybe not take action, but take action next month after we've talked it over a little bit, or maybe let the new council decide whether that's the appropriate thing or not. You can do any one of those three. What the Civil Service Board asks is that at least terminate the provisional appointment of the captains.
Excuse me, which civil service board are you talking about?
State Civil Service Board. State Civil Service Board. To terminate the provisional appointment of captains, or at least advise them that we're probably going to do that, so they'll stop conducting the job analysis. Then the council could come back in December or in January and decide whether to create an assistant chief position and fund it, or a deputy chief position and fund it, and at that time do away with the provisional appointments if they chose to. And at that point, the chief of police elect, or if it was done in December, the Chief Fontenot could then make a provisional appointment to the deputy chief or assistant chief, or he could leave the position unfilled until the position has been properly created by the local civil service board, and then either appointed or test taken and the proper person elected to, not elected, but selected to. So it's kind of a lot on the council's plate, but I mean, that's really what, the only thing I think that has to be done, in my opinion, tonight, other than hearing out Chief-elect Diaz and maybe Chief Fontenot, is to at least have get the sense of the council's desire, so I can tell Civil Service Board at the state to quit doing the job analysis right now until we decide what's going to be done. My intention was to tell them that regardless of if the council doesn't act tonight, let's not do anything. Let's not dig the hole any deeper until we decide which hole we're going to dig, I guess would be the way I'd say it.
So Chief Fontenot, Ronald talked to you about this,
Yes, sir,
and it seems like a reasonable thing to try to you?
Let me tell you, as a chief now, I feel that the two captains, regardless if they do away with those positions or not, is not really relates to what the end result is. The end result is that the Chief-elect Diaz would like to have one person to be his assistant, and I mean that's totally up to him and to the.
And that sounds good to you?
Yes, sir, it does.
And what I think this is doing is giving the police chief, which is elected in this town, a little more autonomy in picking his right-hand person.
Correct. I think it's a very.
It sounds like a good idea to me.
It is. As far as me contacting Baton Rouge and asking him to, or Jacques, to ask him to put the captain's thing on hold, again, that's up to Ron, that's up to the chief.
So what do we need to do?
Well, I think, let me correct myself, Mr. Burson, I did say it had been about resolution, not about ordinance, and I apologize for that, but both the assistant chief and, of course, the position we created, that I think is the next thing that the chief-elect wants to address the council on, the civil service records clerk, senior records clerk, or whatever the position is, can be done by resolution. But it has to be, the budget has to be amended to fund those positions, and that would have to be done by ordinance, that part of it. So that, I mean, we create in this situation, we have eliminated the assistant chief position and have a budget for two captains. So that I think the council would have.
Our fiscal year runs to June, and the budget adjustments could be made by the new council when they enter office.
That's correct.
And a resolution is basically just the sense of how the council feels. It's not law. That will get the ball rolling. Is that right, Jacques?
Correct. Yeah.
I'd like to offer a resolution. We accept the suggestion of the newly elected chief of police on the creation of a deputy chief, and by necessity, elimination of the two captains' positions, but allowing the captains to serve through till the end of the year.
There's no captains. There's no captains. Okay, all right.
Allowing them to serve to the end of the year, because otherwise you'll get stuck having to have a provisional deputy chief, and I don't think he needs to do all that, and the new council needs to.
A second.
Is everybody agreeable with the wording? Need a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed, motion carries.